Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Katie Deming, and this is the Born to Heal podcast, where we share practical tools and knowledge to help you create conditions for true healing in your life. Let's welcome to the show clinical hypnotherapist Amy Budden, who's created her own technique to help people heal using frequency and heart coherence. And she also has a meditation app that recently was released called Connect the Mind. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
It's so nice to be with you. So, I want you to tell me, what is the most remarkable outcome you've seen using hypnosis and your specific technique?
I say this a lot, that I am 15 years into this and I'm surprised every week by the remarkable stories. However, I think my origin story that led me away from being a comedy editor for Adam Sandler and a stay-at-home mom is probably the most compelling, because I was hit so hard by it. It was completely remarkable that it forced me to understand what had happened. And what happened was, my daughter, who is now healthy and 17 years old, was under the age of 2, and she was extremely ill. She had a sort of unspecified autoimmune condition that would make her lungs fill with fluid in the middle of the night. And it was really scary. And she was on a ton of steroid and breathing, Ventolin and all that stuff. And I never knew when it was going to hit. And even though we had pulmonologists and immunologists, it was really intense. And we were still sort of discovering the source of the issue. And so I had been meditating to keep myself sane, because when you're a caregiver in that situation, you have to stay really balanced. And one night, while her lungs were filling up with fluid, and it was very violent when it would happen, she would vomit and cough and cough. And I was starting to realize that if I was regulated, which I now know is heart coherence, that she can feel me because we radiate these good feelings 30 feet from our body, she would be more regulated and she would feel more safe and she would need less medication. So I was going into a place of meditation, heart coherence, though I didn't know that term at the time. And she was having an attack and her lungs were filling with fluid. And what I didn't know, but later when I was trained in hypnosis, I did something called a shock induction, which was basically, I induced her to go into trance through visualization. And we were together on the bed, and I was simply counting with her, instructing her to breathe. And then I took her on a journey, which was it was just out of a mother's desperation to make the situation better. Took her on a journey. And during this journey, I said, well, maybe there's helpful friends there. Who do you see? And she had a fairy friend. And this fairy friend gave her a tool, and the tool was a paintbrush. And the paintbrush, they both painted her lungs clean. And after that, she gained 30% of her body weight within, I don't know, probably a month. She needed less and less medication. And I felt a little bit like a crazy person. And so I needed to know why this had happened and how did the mind have the ability to heal the body. I had a sense that maybe she didn't have so many filters of belief that we do, and maybe something had happened that I couldn't explain. And so I was already very interested in the benefits of meditation, and I became obsessed with the neuroscience of, the placebo effect and how we can affect change in our bodies with our mental state. And so that was sort of a 10-year journey for me. And then I got certified as a hypnotherapist and a number of different modalities. And then, eventually what happened, really before I was even out of school, I had a full practice because people were very curious about what I was doing. And I had a good reputation in my community through my children. It was a little out there, but they trusted me enough to take them on the journey. And so then I added frequency, and then I started to understand the science of it. The science came later. I was shooting from intuition, and then the structure and the systems came into place. I met some people like Don Estes, who is the father of frequency. He taught me, and Dr. Michael Gallitzer, he taught me. Dr. Michael Gallitzer worked with Dr. Emoto at one point. So it just started to come together. And now I have many stories like that. People who can't find the tumors on the scan, and people who have had extreme pain relief by using the power of their mind, either in childbirth or after surgery, to mitigate these sensory experiences. They change their perception of pain. And so I'm the lucky person who gets to learn from my clients. And 15 years later, I'm still surprised every week.
I love that. And I love that story. It's like born out of necessity, right? You're just a mom taking care of her child, doing the best that you can, and then realizing like something that we would describe as miraculous. Now, I'm sure you don't see these things as miraculous anymore, and myself included. We know that there are ways to, outcomes like that, but just that the sheer need is what brought you to that space. And then, then building something out of that, what you saw and what you experienced, which is so beautiful. And I know, so, just for the listeners, Amy and I met in 2020, like the month before the pandemic, at a retreat, and connected at that time, but you were doing fertility work at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we disconnected for a while and then reconnected recently. And lo and behold, you had, started working in the cancer space as well. And now we've been working together with clients and with your app, which I definitely want to talk about. But I'd love to start by having you explain, can you describe like, what is it that you do? How is it that you're, working with hypnosis and frequency, and how does it work?
Yeah, well, I'll give you a demo. I'll give you a demo of what I do. But what I've come to learn from the science is that heart coherence is extremely powerful, as is the power of belief, right? So if we can custom create, me and the client, custom create based on their belief system, what beliefs do they want to shift? So if they come in for cancer, maybe they believe that they don't have the ability to heal, or they're not powerful enough to heal. And so we'll start with that premise. And then actually we create a custom script together with a hypnotic induction, and coherence is baked into every recording. And what coherence is it helps the person go from a high beta brainwave state, which looks like this all over the place, to slow alpha, which tells your body that you're safe and secure, which activates those 40,000 neurons in your heart. You start to generate these good feelings like love and compassion and care. And you dose yourself. You create dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And you get to mitigate these hormones of stress. And I've come to believe that there's another component, which is when someone holds the belief, can see the belief, the person that's sitting across from us, feel the belief that it's possible, which I truly believe. That's helpful. And also there's a quality, I guess they call it neuroception, that the quality of care and compassion in my voice, I really love. I really come from love. That somehow it's absorbed in their nervous system and they can relax a little bit. And we know that when we relax at a deep level, we're also healing because our body isn't fighting with the hormones of stress like cortisol, right? So, and I'm sure you have much to add to that from a medical perspective. So yeah, so that's really what I do. And then I added frequency. So I have a device that entrains their brain to alpha waves. So, and then I use frequency in the chair, pushing alpha waves into the chair. I actually, like 10 years ago, MacGyvered a chair together in my garage based on intuition, which is remarkable. I was like, what am I doing? And yeah, it just helps people relax at a deep level. And I think that's the energetic component that I don't fully understand. Care, concern, love. They're training their brain. They're changing their nervous system. They're soothing and settling their nervous system. And then there's frequency that helps them with that sense memory. Like, oh, I can do this. I can actually meditate. So they call it the magic nap. And I started working with very high powered individuals through YPO who would come in so tweaked and they were like, I can't meditate. And they would sit in the chair and we'd go through this very simple process of connecting to feelings of care, concern, or memories of being comfortable and working with their beliefs. And they would, access the frequency and then they would get up and they'd go, that was like a magic nap. And that's how the app was born. I wanted people to have these tools at their disposal so that they have a tool for hard times, and the frequency is baked into my app as well. So I had an amazing sound designer, Jason Schweitzer, who created an immersive sound experience. And I have proprietary tracks that are infused with alpha, and that's generally for the daytime, and delta, which can bring you into sleep.
I know I've discovered one tool that's completely transformed how my clients heal, resetting their metabolism, activating the body's natural healing, and giving them incredible mental clarity. That tool is water fasting, and you can access my free workshop all about fasting as a healing modality right now. I cover how fasting actually works in your body, the different types of fasts, and how to know which approach is right for you. And most importantly, how to do it safely. Whether you're navigating health challenges, have tried fasting before, or are completely new to it, this workshop is for you. I'll share real success stories from my practice and give you the framework I use with my clients. You can watch it now by accessing the link in this episode's description. This workshop could change how you think about healing entirely. From both using the app, so, as you were testing it, using that and using it with some clients, and then now that it's out, actually, I have clients who are using it. And I think what's beautiful is you've taken what you do one-on-one with people and made it accessible in a way that, someone across the world who can't come sit in your chair to have a magic nap can have this experience. And the way that I would describe this just for my listeners who are, curious and want to know is it's similar to a guided meditation. That's what it feels like. You're listening to a guided meditation, but with these very specific pieces that you're probably not going to even recognize that's happening in the background. But Amy, given her background in the science, incorporating getting into, the alpha waves or the delta waves, depending on, the type of meditation, people just listen and they find it relaxing. It's soothing. People really love your voice and that connection. And I definitely feel the resonance of love in your voice, and have also done, individual sessions with you and have recordings from you that I love to listen to because of the resonance that's in your voice. But it's basically, like a beautiful little meditation that you can listen to, and the durations are different, but people notice that they feel different. And so, for example, some of my fasters use it, to help them calm their nervous system, to, reduce anxiety, to, help them sleep. Sleep can be challenging, and it's beautiful. It's just like an easy, accessible way for them to, get results that they want that maybe they're not getting through other mechanisms. And the one question I want to ask you is, this is really impressing upon the subconscious mind as well, right? So you're programming the subconscious mind for what they're wanting to create in their life.
Yes. And asking those questions. And, I'm happy to do a little 5-minute heart coherence demo, which I will in a minute, but I just wanted to say one thing is that one of the gifts of having seen thousands of people who have much more challenging life experience than I could ever have, or know all of this wisdom that they have just from going through the journey. That's the beauty of it. So they have taught me exactly what to say to someone who's in chemotherapy. They have taught me what the themes are, the underlying themes and the fears that happen. And so they have taught me how to be a companion to people and allow this app to be a companion to people in hard times.
Well, and I'll tell a remarkable story because one of my fasters was using your meditations and loved them, but her daughter was about to go into labor. And I forget what the story was exactly, that they were like wanting her to go into labor and she was late or something. Anyway, she ended up listening to your labor induction hypnosis and she went into labor. So I was like, okay, wow, there's a testimonial right there. I know it works. So I'm like, I don't normally have induced labor in people. That's not my world. But I was like, wow.
I can tell you that story because it came from a doctor, 2 doctors actually. So there's a doctor that I work with who does home births. She's an OB, and we're both working with the same client, and the client was 2 weeks overdue. So that's how that was born, that recording. And she came into the chair. She was not effaced. There was nothing going on. And she sat down, and so the doctor called me and said, "Have you ever done a hypno induction?" And I was like, "No." "Okay, let's try it." So the woman came in and she got up at the end. I was like, are we ready? We want to try this? She's like, "Absolutely." So she got up at the end. She was like, "I feel really great. I feel so rested," and walked out the door. And then my friend, who was her doula, called me. She went into hard labor. The baby was born like very rapidly, no complications. She had an easy birth. And since then, it's been like 4 for 4, to the point where at Cedars-Sinai, there are a few doctors that are using the hypno induction. So I don't really know what the secret sauce is, but it makes sense to me. If you're relaxing at a deep level, you're going to be a lot more receptive to labor and delivery, right? Because this particular client had been working. She's an agent, and she had been working so hard she hadn't even stopped to relax. And so it may be as simple as when you instruct yourself that it's safe to relax, just like when you instruct yourself it's safe to relax for healing, you start to heal, it's safe to relax to have a baby. So, and similarly, I get, not me, but my clients get great results with fertility because a relaxed body is an amazing place for a baby to call home, right?
So beautiful. Yeah. When that story blew my mind, I was like, Amy said that you could do this, but I was like, when my client told me about it, it was just like incredible.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, I'm surprised, and I'm not sure what the secret sauce is, but I'm grateful that they got some relief, and that they have a companion, right? In labor and delivery, like a voice in the ear saying, like, just remember the contraction is a wave bringing your baby to you, and just working with those beliefs, because we believe that pain is telling us that something's wrong. If you lock in to pain, it's going to get worse. So, but if you would you like me to do a little sample?
I would love it. I would love it. Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So we can start with the breath and just begin to connect to our breath. And when you breathe in, you can take another deep breath in and hold that breath to the point of resistance. And when you exhale longer than the inhale, that's going to send a signal to your body that it's time to relax. So you can begin to settle into a rhythm of breathing like this, where you inhale maybe for 4, hold for 4, and exhale for 8. But you can decide, you can play with it. And if you've had a really stressful day, the other way that you can signal the relaxation response is to yawn 3 times. That's one other way. And so just settle into a rhythm of breathing, and now get conscious about how you're feeling. And you can take a deep breath in and just imagine that it's going into the mind space, that you can be receptive to thoughts and feelings that are positive, that it's okay right now just to unhook from the thoughts of the day. You can take another deep breath in for the body and just begin to notice where there's any tension or tightness, and let yourself know that it's safe to relax. And as you do, begin to connect to your heart. Feel your heart beating, the miracle that is life in your body. And notice all the love that is stored there. Just begin to allow images or memories to spontaneously arise and make you feel loved, comfortable if that's too much for you today. And then you can take another breath in for the emotions, just kind of noticing where you are. Any thoughts that are creating those feelings, any stories that are holding them in place that may or may not be true. So you can just let that go and go toggle back to the heart, just feeling what's really good right now in this moment together. And each and every time you hear my recordings, it's the same intro. So your subconscious mind is like, maybe this time isn't going to work. You can just go in the side door. And then you can turn your eyes upward to the point between the eyebrows with your eyes closed and just let your eyes fall. This will kind of drop you into just like the breath, the long exhale. And so you might begin to notice things are slowing down a little bit. And as you turn your eyes upward to the point between the eyebrows, you can just let yourself know that each and every time you count down from 5 to 0, you can see it like a movie, the numbers counting you down if you like. With repetition, you're creating your ability to create comfort on command. So you can just begin to count down from 5 and just let yourself know that you can release and relax and let go. 4, getting very comfortable. 3, 2, 1, and 0. Now just try it in your own time. And as you do, just tell yourself that you could create this good feeling and let it expand 10 times or relax 10 times deeper as you count yourself down from 5 to 0. And then we would go slowly through the body. For right now, just imagine a relaxation, a wave of relaxation. You can give it a color, a texture, photons, rays, whatever it is for you. That it just kind of washes away the day and it moves from head to toe. It can be here right now. Just let it all go. We're going to move back into the heart center. Just allow yourself to feel what's really good right now. No matter what is happening, something really good is here right now, something wonderful. And maybe you have a loving family. Maybe you saw a butterfly this morning, drinking your morning coffee. Just allow the goodness of your life, your love of yourself, and allow all those beautiful, loving memories that are stacked up in your heart just to make their way to you. And that you can see it with your inner eyes. You can hear it with your inner ears. You can feel it with any and all of your senses. And you can just breathe here, allowing yourself to be comforted. That the good feeling, no matter what is happening, the good feeling still is right here in your heart. And when you're ready, we can use a count up. And so noticing what your thoughts are telling you today, what feelings they're creating and what behaviors, and noticing that you have the ability to switch the script, to remember what is good right now, that oftentimes these 10,000 thoughts we have a day aren't true, and they're creating the hormones of stress. So remind yourself you can smile more, you can laugh more, that this good feeling is still with you. And now just use your mind to create a feeling of energy, whatever that means. Maybe there was a time when you felt really athletically powerful. Maybe you can see your energetic piggy bank all full from this time together. And use those images to recharge your body as you come back to your day. And count yourself up from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can open your eyes. So that was an extremely truncated version, but the beginning and the end are pretty similar. And I do that so that you do absorb the positive suggestions because it becomes so familiar that you can relax at a deep level. The countdown is just a signal to you with the repetition that you have the ability to create this comfort on command. And with the consistency, repetition, and commitment, you really do change your brain. You know, You create those new neural pathways. So if your default was anxiety, like hello, mine was 15 to 20 years ago, when you go into these coherent states where you remember, oh, things are still okay right now, it becomes less and less available to you to go to that, you know, constricted place. You want to go back to the relaxed place, and you have the tools to do so. And another great thing about heart coherence is it shrinks the amygdala, and that's the fight flight center of your brain. So you start working more from the prefrontal cortex. And of course, we know the reticular activating system is the driver of a lot of these negative thoughts and stories. But when you can get the reticular activating system part of the brain in the driver's seat, meaning you start your day and you say something wonderful is going to happen, or I really feel like this doctor, is supporting me, or I am supported and resourced. Whatever belief system you're working with, you don't have a negative default mode in the same way, and you have a tool to manage the crazy stuff that we say to ourselves.
What I experienced just in going through that with you is just rest. Like the best way that I could describe it is I feel like I've just had a nice rest. And also I just feel in like a very peaceful space, which is where healing occurs, right? So healing occurs when we're at peace. And then, so I love that demonstration that you did, and people can just use that little piece just to drop in so quickly. And also that was how many minutes? And, so quickly, like everything that had happened before I had gotten on this call with you just disappeared.
I'm constantly seeking out the science for why this is effective so that I can understand it and meet everyone where they are, like give them a reason why it works. But they say that 20 minutes in alpha. So you're an experienced meditator. I watched you go into coherence really fast, like probably in the first 5 seconds. But they say that 20 minutes in that state is equivalent to 90 minutes of REM sleep. So, and that's how I found it too. I was a new mom. I was really tired. But the cosmic joke is I just wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. But no, that was not my path. But anyway, yes. So 90 minutes of REM sleep is what it's equivalent to. And so that's why we call it.
Oh yeah, that's what that makes sense, because that's what it feels like. It feels like I just woke up from a nap, and I know that it was only a few minutes. So that makes a lot of sense. I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about, like, what are the different meditations on the app? Like how could someone use the work that you've done, just like really practical tips about how they can incorporate this and what they would find if they go into your app. And I think you also we're going to have a link in the show notes to the app. And I can't remember whether there was like a promotion with that.
Yeah, there's a 30-day free trial. So any people can go on right now and get the 30-day free trial. That will be ample time for you to test drive it. And then I brought the cost down to 49 cents a day. So with the code that I'm providing you, it's 25% off. So I do recommend people sign up for a year, because you're going to create your own results. It's based on your commitment. And the best part of it, it's not something that's arduous that you have to add to your to-do list. It's basically a commitment to allow yourself to rest every day. So I do recommend that, because then you'll commit to it. But so what's on the app? We have 1,400 recordings that are frequency infused. So the Calm channel is extensive. So it's basically different variations of mitigating anxiety. We also have fears and phobias. That comes from my clients that I worked with, extreme fears, fear of needles. But the needles aren't necessarily mentioned, right? Fear is fear. So you can use fear and phobias for anything, fear of flying, and also fear of treatment or fear of outcomes, right? It's really about surrender and learning how to relax at a deep level. So fears and phobias, cancer care, labor and delivery. I have a lot of fertility recordings. And the beauty about what I've learned from my clients is it's very specific. So I don't know that there's anything out there like this where you have a companion for your egg retrieval. and now I'm working with surrogates. You have a companion to help you feel bonded to your baby in a surrogacy situation. Very specific. And the same goes for cancer treatment, very specific recordings for chemotherapy, for reconstructive surgery, for repair from reconstructive surgery. So I also have a surgery channel. I have a healing channel, which is a little more metaphysical, calling on angels sometimes, calling on guides, calling on, activating your energetic systems. To that point, from my learnings with Dr. Joe Dispenza, a chakra channel. Sleep. Apparently, I was voted best by Elle magazine, best sleep meditation on the internet because I knocked out the tester in less than 6 minutes or something. So sleep, people have had success with that. My early meditation classes, when I started just around my kitchen table, meditation music, including sound bowls from friends and colleagues that have contributed their work. Yeah. Just recently, there's 2 tracks for past life regression. There are tracks for working with emotions. I think that's the most powerful channel that I have, actually, because how do we work with emotions like grief? How do we work with emotions like anger? How do we work with fear? And then there's the manifestation one that I've just been diving into recently, which because I had to review my own material, I'd never really listened to my own stuff, and I was like, oh wait, this is really good. Now I'm starting to visualize what I want to bring into my life. So yeah, and then there is our specific tracks for relationships. So how do you navigate repair in relationships? So oftentimes, we have talk therapy, but how do we integrate that so our nervous system knows it? So we can we can regulate, we can use those tools to really reflect active listening or nonviolent communication. Yeah, I mean, and so much more. Male embodiment. So I worked with Traver Boehm to create tracks for men who can connect to difficult emotions without shutting down their heart. So we called it male embodiment for heart-based leadership for men, because we really need heart-based leadership from men right now. So yeah, so 30 different channels, 1,400 different tracks, and you can search by keyword. And, you don't have to listen to the same track over and over, but I found that sometimes if there's a particular track that just drops you into that place, just to stick with that, and it's just as effective as bopping around. I have coherence tracks, active love tracks. So what we know about coherence and active love, this was remarkable that I experienced with my own children, is people sense it. Oh, and also I've worked with a lot of celebrities, and they would say when they went into active love, they would book the part because it's catchy, right? So what active love is this coherent state. So if you can broadcast this feeling of love when you're doing something, a presentation, booking a job, if you're an actor, people are like, what is that quality? What is that charisma? And the science of it is you're actually creating a toroidal field around your heart, right? You know, and you're changing your energy actually, and people can feel it. My personal experience with active love is in relationship, it diffuses conflict because you can feel the person. When I really started to see its effects was when I was like wrestling with my children to get out of the door, and I realized like, oh, you're the problem. Like they're being children, but if you're not regulated, they're going to respond to that. And once I figured out active love, although they tease me about having a hypno voice sometimes when I'm trying to but once I found active love, I realized that especially when they were little, like where that connection is beyond words, there were no power struggles anymore. And actually, I've never had those power struggles with my daughters. And I do not attribute it to my wisdom. Believe me, I make mistakes just like everyone else, but I do attribute it to this tool of being able to regulate myself and go into this place of non-judgment and not expecting it to be a certain way, and just in those difficult times, just broadcast a frequency of love. And I, was actually in training for that in every session with my clients. So it prepped me.
If it can work with children, and especially you have a 17-year-old and you're older one, you have another one who's older, right? So if you've made it through the teen years with, not having that resistance and conflict, that I think is a huge testament. And it is true that they respond, right? They respond to our energy. And I love the example of getting the kids out the door, because that was, we all have our moment where we lost it with the kids, I remember that when my son must have been 5, he was like in kindergarten something, and every day was like that nightmare getting into the car, and he wouldn't be dressed, and I was fighting with him every day. And then I just said, tomorrow my car's leaving at whatever it was, 7:30, and if you're ready, you're ready. If you're not, you're not. And then, just picked him up and put him in the car with, and he had in his pajamas, and he thought his hair was a mess, and the carpool, the next girl. And then he was like, "You're not going to make me go to school like this." And I'm like, there's clothes in the back if you want to go ahead and get yourself dressed. So it's so funny. Like that memory just came flooding back to me. It's like, it's real actually being a parent. And if you can, it is true, regulating ourselves is the way they respond to us. Everyone responds to us. Everyone's in training.
It's the only thing we can control, right? Like whether we're in cancer treatment, fertility treatment, a mother, it's the only thing we can control. And that's that's my offering. And of course, the kids is the least glamorous of my stories. Like, I have world-renowned actors that have booked jobs, and I've worked with models, and to generate that charisma. And it's been really fun because they're not wooey at all. But when I work with CEOs and we use these techniques for things like board meetings or securing a deal, or, where they just want to bring the best of them forward, and they want to be clear, because you will be clear, you'll be concise, you'll have all the right words, and then you'll be creating this feeling for people that, of care, right? And so it's really fun when they use the recordings, which may seem a little wooey, to, close the $30 million deal. That actually is a male CEO client of mine called me, and he was like, "I never would have thought that, broadcasting a frequency of love is going to close my $30 million deal." And then, of course, a lot of my highly successful clients are extremely intuitive, and they don't know what the resonance of a good decision is. Like when they know the deal is a good deal, when they know the script is the right script. And so we explore that from a relaxed place, and they start to understand that as they relax, they can tune into their own intuition. Same with medical treatment. Like, is this, to get quiet enough to say, is this the right decision for me?
Yeah, well, and I think that particularly with my audience, many of them are on their own healing journey, and tuning into their intuition is a big piece that I talk about, because, so many things are pushed, that this is the standard of care and this is the way that you're supposed to do it. And people end up doing things that they later regret. I'm always encouraging people to slow things down, to tune into their intuition. And it is true that you can't tap into your intuition when you're in a state of stress and when you're frantic. And exactly. Yeah. So I love that. That is beautiful. And, with the app, so there's many channels, there's many different ways that you can use this. And, I will just say that this type of work is sometimes people are like, I don't know, like that just seems kind of like frills, and maybe that's like extra and I don't need to do that. But my experience is that it's a short amount of time that you invest in it that can really impact your whole day and everything that you do. And so it's one of those things that I think people often overlook. And then, but when they do it and they see the results, it can be so profound. And one of the things that, I'm just going to speak to, I love Joe Dispenza and I love his work, but a lot of his meditations are very long. And so.
And loud.
Yes. But the long is the big, so people who are healing cancer specifically oftentimes will show up with these regimens that they're doing. And it's like they have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning just to take all the supplements with the space in between, and then the eating, and then their 2-hour meditation and all of this stuff that it's overwhelming. So then they're just like, screw it. Screw all of this, right? Or they like burn themselves out by doing all these things. And what I love about your work is that these are shorter. These are things that you can work into your life that don't feel like they're going to become your life, that you have to revolve your whole life around, fitting this into your schedule, which I think is important. I think balance is really important, that people need to have a real life and not have, healing is a job, but it doesn't need to be your whole life. And I think that you bring tools to the table that make that accessible for people. So I want to say thank you to you for the work that you do, because I've used your recordings myself and seen the results, but also I see when my clients use them that they really make a difference.
That makes me so happy. And as I've been reviewing my own material, I'm like, oh, I need to hear this too. We all need to hear that comforting voice in our ear to tell us that we have the power to shift, we have the power to heal, we have the power to create consciously the life that we want to create. So thank you so much. And my clients taught me, especially my cancer clients, the sense of overwhelm that comes with treatment, right? The diagnosis, just the diagnosis alone. How can I create something that's so simple for them that they want to do it because they rest at a deep level and it just feels like a nap, and they don't have one more thing on their to-do list, right? So I often, and I've learned over the years, you don't have to effort the visualization. You don't have to do it right. If you fall asleep, fine. It's still encouraging you to rest, and you're going to get something out of it. But the simpler, the better. Simpler, the better. And it was my clients that taught me that. Exactly what you're witnessing, that we just get overwhelmed with all the expectations of everyday life. And so let's just keep this simple. Just time to have a little nap.
I love it, the magic nap. Well, Amy, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom. We will link to the app in the show notes, but where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Connect the Mind, and at connectthemind.com, and connectthemind@gmail.com.
I love
and
it.
if they're on Instagram, to take a look at the testimonials, because now I have hundreds and hundreds of them. So it's fun. It's fun to see. And it will reinforce their power of belief that they can and they will.
I love that. Thank you so much again, Amy. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for being here today. Please enjoy a previous episode of Born to Heal. And if you found value in our conversation, please subscribe and share with someone who might benefit. Have questions? Drop them in the YouTube comments or message me on Instagram. Links are in the episode description. Remember, just like me, you were born to heal.